recorded. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, Alan, you were wanting to jump into the topic for read model. So we'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah. So yeah, Sashi, go ahead.
Sure. So I'm working on a couple of issues for the read model now. So we have created the base tables for the new security policies table, and I'm working on creating the subtables for that. That's basically the join tables between the security policies and the approval rules. And once we are done with that, we would start using the values from these tables for the approval rules instead of reading it from the YAML or the old table that we have. So I'm working on both of them, and we might also have to have an issue again for migrating the existing policies into the new table. So once that's done, we can enable the feature flag. So that's the list of issues that we have currently.
Before we enable the feature flag, would it make sense to also implement it for the pipeline execution policies? Because then we wouldn't need to have a background migration for that.
Yeah, for sure. That should be a good idea as well. Yeah, maybe I can add that to the epic and also on the feature flag issue. So we also would persist the scan execution policy as well. We have an MR that Dominic is working on, and once that's merged, we can also persist the scan execution policies along with the migration.
Cool, amazing. So, but it feels like at least behind feature flag, we should be able to make it till 17.1 release.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I hope so. And but we're not very sure about the migration because it might take a longer time to complete because we have loads of policies in production database now. So yeah, that might be one thing that might slip based on the time it executes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking about self-managed if they have like enormous projects and groups. I'm just thinking how we can manage enabling the feature flag and having a migration, because obviously we need to first have a migration finished before we can like fully enable it, or we need to have some kind of fallback that if there is nothing in the okay. All right, that sounds cool. Great, thank you.
So, and how the fallback work for self-managed? So like it's like either it migrates or like for self-managed.
We currently have an older table. We call it scan result policy reads. That's the table we kind of persist, not the whole policy, but some information from the policy. We fall back to that table for reading the policy YAML.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so timeline, from a timeline standpoint, we should at least be behind the feature flag in 17.1. The migration could take longer, but we could assume then that by 17.2, we'll have kind of wrapped this up, which then I'm seeing this as a dependency on extending and improving our policy limits, at least for merge request approval policies and scan execution policies. So the next step from there is then we do performance testing so I don't know, I guess, could we be doing performance testing and establishing the like number, like the limits that we are able to have, I guess. Are we able to do that in 17.1 regardless, or wait on the migration? And so this could be 17.2 or 17.3. Like when do we think we could start doing some testing on limits?
We don't need to necessarily wait for the migration to complete. We can maybe enable the feature flag for a test group that we have with loads of projects and subgroups, and we can do the performance testing parallelly before the migration completes.
Okay.
And maybe I'll create an issue for that to do the performance testing.
There might be an issue for us to do that already under the limits epic. But yeah, if there's more information that we can supply there just to be prepared and be planning ahead for that, that would be helpful. And I'll find that epic here.
And then if I recall correctly, there is also an epic scheduled initially for 17.2 to enhance like MR approval policies to also allow you to specify components and versions of those components. I mean, for license approval policies, I remember we had such epic. And I believe before, at least perhaps we already have a read model in a state where we can extend that with new capabilities. I mean, we need to allow these components to be filtered out, and we need to use read model now to do that, because it was like the main blocker for any new feature related to policies that are enhancing MR approval policies and adding new feature to it, because we need to have read model in place, because otherwise we need to go back, revisit the whole migration and all of that. So from day one that we're going to introduce this new feature, we need to have read model working. Without that, it's we have to stop somewhere, and that was the line.
Okay, that's good to note. I didn't see that as a dependency for the license component filter feature. I didn't realize that, so I'll take a look at that in the planning. I know it's coming up on our priority list, so we can make sure that we dial that in if we need to push it out another milestone or something. All right. Well, let's see. I had some points that I was sharing in the planning breakdown, or at least some notes on planning breakdown. Where I'm heading next is I'm working on updating our priorities and direction page. There's a few things I want to add just in terms of like context of like our prioritization, where we're heading, the different policy types that we might imagine working on in the future. And then just trying to get a few more of these like specific issues elevated that we've been talking about, but they're not on the priority page yet. So I'll have more clarity on that soon. One that I can highlight, and I was sharing this with Alexander as well. I know it looks like he's not able to join today, but I added the link here, is support merge request settings override for any security policy option. And I know he and I both had questions if this would be front end only. And if we don't know off the top of our heads, we can go async. But when we rolled the settings out, it was like compliance enforcement of security policies was that overarching epic. We added the ability to override branch protection settings and merge request approval settings in the policies. But one of those abilities is only available if you choose any merge request when you're defining the policy. And the other option is available in any case, if you do any merge requests or if you do license scanning or security scanning. So we want to make sure those settings are available consistently. They definitely should be available for any merge request for that option, and they are. But I think it makes sense to have this consistent on if you select also license scanning or security scanning. So so I think we just need to kind of flesh that out and see. I think it's a small. I'm anticipating this to be a small effort, and it's just one that I'm pulling in from the backlog. There are these little just minor issues and things that we're working on, minor improvements that I want to make sure are well reflected and that we're discussing. Some of these we might want to fluctuate on the milestones and sizing and all of that as we go. But thought I would note that one. And then some of this I'm like still formulating, and I want to make sure this is clear in the direction page update. But while we're on the team meeting, just where I see us heading, just off the top of my head, I haven't added all my notes here, but I added in note 3 here under issues for planning breakdown. We're working now on optimizing scheduled scan execution so that we're able to better handle when and how we trigger scheduled scans and how we do this at scale. And I think this is going to be important that we're already working on it, but as we address this, as we improve upon it, I do anticipate with the pipeline execution policy as well that we'll want to support scheduled scan execution with custom CI. Today we're starting with the trigger options only, But there are plenty of customers who've expressed interest in also being able to enforce the schedule scans. And I know there's a lot more to explore and think about there. So I'm going to make sure that's reflected somewhere in the priority list as a separate epic. And let me pull up my list here and see if there's anything else to highlight. So I know we're working on breaking down improvements around hiding the security policy project. And I think that what we're coming across here is that it really breaks down into several different issues or challenges. And so one thing we've had reflected in the priority list is allowing users to view the policy history in the policy UI. So that will be one step to like avoid having to jump across into the other project, the security policy project, to go through the MRs. That could be just like a one improvement to make it easier to stay in the policy UI itself. But we're working on another epic around this like one-step policy scoping process. Like, how do we make it a little bit easier to understand security policy project links and to handle scoping and to understand like your permissions and access to be able to manage linking all in one place. So I think that's something that I want to make sure is better reflected and trying to figure out like what order we need to do these things in. But that's something I'll expect to see added here.
By the way, Grant, I believe next week we could talk about it. So we could show designs and just briefly talk about it, because this is we're changing how we're gonna actually scope policies. And not right now we have this link that you need to link group or project to security policy project. We would like to make it somehow automated. And in the policy UI editor, you will be able to specify scope, and then we'll manage like all linking will happen behind scenes. So this is like a huge change, because that effectively means, the biggest problem with linking is that you cannot link and get approval to allow or disallow linking. Well, we would like to change that. So in the policy itself, you will be able to specify either project or groups where you would like to enable a given policy, and then behind scenes, we're gonna create all those links. But anyway, it will happen only when MR will be merged. So this is like, I finally got it after many weeks of discussing it. I would like to achieve it. I finally agree on the plan, but I believe this is important aspect that we need to clarify, because it's not that easy to understand at the first glance.
Yeah, and I've got the designs. It took me a while to find where they were again, but so yeah, I've got the designs up here, and yeah, essentially you'll see that we're trying to like update. Well, I feel like there's not, so all projects in linked group. I think this is really the screen that better reflects what we're trying to accomplish, is that as you do the policy scoping, once you select the option, then as the next step, you can manage the linking based on your permissions. So if you want this policy to be linked to, all projects in these groups, you could get, more granularly apply the policies and like have the context of which groups will be affected. And so the user that creates the policy, it will kind of be based on the permissions. And instead of having to, let's say you have a policy you're enforcing across 1,000 projects, if you have the permissions in all of those projects to manage linking, then you would be able to see all of those groups or projects, and you'd be able to go in and specify that. So this could, at the end of these changes, it could simplify it to the point of for the customer to go in and find who are the roles, who are the users that I want to be able to create and manage the policies, who are my policy creators, or who are my security and compliance folks, and then give them a certain level of access in all of the groups. So these could be like each of the top level groups or each of the subgroups. And then once they've done that, all they have to do is go here to the policy and they can fully manage it. Whereas today, if you were to do that, if you have 1,000 groups, that might mean going to 1,000 teams to ask them to get the link created, or similarly, you'd have to like have access in 1,000 groups and go in and click the button 1,000 times, or set up some kind of API call or something. So it's a lot of legwork to manage at scale, and that this is going to be a step that will improve just kind of the management aspect at scale. So yeah, that's one piece of this puzzle, and then there's the other work that we're doing or we're exploring around avoiding having to jump across projects. So you're creating it in the editor view, and then you have to go into the policy YAML, and the policy YAML is in a different project. So there are a couple of layers to this that we're identifying, and yeah, I think we need to sort out a little bit of the ordering of the work, and we're doing some user validation on this as well. So we can see if there are any tweaks or improvements that come from the feedback there. But yeah, most of this is just kind of giving the team here a little bit of a heads up and a preview into what we're seeing coming down the pipe. I think related to, we've been talking about security policies by group, being able to add the grouping ability, like when you're doing the scoping. I think there's some just API limitations right now to doing that. But yeah. So anyway, short preview into what's coming, and then I'm going to keep working on the direction page update, and we can cover more next time as well.
Cool. Thanks, Grant. One question. I believe I asked this on GitLab anyway, related to selection of latest or default template. I saw that you added release post item to it. Just a question, are we gonna add UI as well? Or only, like, for now, only YAML mode, and we'll just say to customers, if you want to use it, just use it in YAML mode.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that was reflected as well, and I think that's one that's not there yet. So let's choose. I mean, I think to answer your question, we can start with the YAML iteration, but maybe we can clarify that in the scope of the issue, or if we want to break it down and go one layer lower and create an issue that says this is for YAML and one that's for UI, and then we can work on UI enhancement before closing the epic. Maybe that would be a better route to go. What do you think, Alan?
Ideally, I would like to release it like fully with both UI and backend.
Okay.
It's fairly simple drop down somewhere, or like a selection that you can add, and at least you'll have like visual representation that of what I want to have. Because then if you modify it in YAML mode only, then the policy UI editor will be disabled for you.
Right.
So yeah, I believe the effort is relatively small to add it.
Yeah,
I just need to have designs.
Yeah, I guess what it would come down to is, like, if we're able to release it in YAML as an iteration more quickly than that, it makes it feasible for customers to pick it up. And we do get this question pretty regularly. I know we've been trying to keep the prioritization on pipeline execution policy type, because that will satisfy the need as well. But yeah, I mean, if you've got an MR up that we could release, its value to the customer, like they'd be able to do it. So I think it's a matter of if from the UI perspective, if we can also have that in this milestone, that
Okay,
I'm not opposed to that.
let's try it. And if not, we'll only release the YAML. I mean, we'll only have release item for YAML mode only.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Cool. So yeah, maybe we can break it down into a UI, like have a UI issue if we don't yet have it, and we can check in with Archer and Alexander and see if they have capacity.
Sure.
Good question. Any other questions or comments on anything we've been discussing from the team? Not a single one. No questions, period.
I'm thinking, should we gonna have in like few minutes call around pipeline execution policy? Is there any topic that we should be prepared, like something we need to discuss with Fabio Furkan, or for now there's like nothing, and we're just moving forward to have like something that will be merged?
So I'll say first, the one that is at 8:30 is just internal. Well, it's all internal, but like this will be just with Martin and you, and I guess our tutor if he's around. But yeah, the pipeline, the one with verify is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we just kind of have this regular sync to see if there's anything from a product perspective to get clarified, or any open questions. So I think limits, the pipeline execution policy limits has been the topic we've been circling around a bit, so we can verify where we are there. But yeah, anything else, Martin, that would be helpful to discuss with the broader team?
I don't think at this point we are still stuck on the first MR. We got the first approval just like an hour ago, and now it's on Fabio to do the maintainer review. And I also asked Sashi to review it from the security policies perspective. So once we have this, we can work on the follow-ups.
All right. So should we meet in a few minutes then, or it's all clarified for now and we can meet like in a week?
I have one point that I would like to talk about, just to like clear it up. And so, yeah, I would prefer to have a meeting.
All right, let's do it then. I'll try to join as well, if I'll find a place to park.
Cool, thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right, cool. Any open questions or discussion items from the broader team? Everything going smoothly otherwise? No blockers, no hiccups, no product questions. Life is good. Thumbs ups.
Life's
Anything?
good. Yeah. Life's good.
Life is good. All right. Dominique, do you have a place yet lined up?
No.
No. Oh,
No.
sorry to hear that.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah. Good luck. Awesome. Well, I guess with that, we can adjourn and see you in a few more minutes, Martin and Alan. Wherever you're going to be, Alan, we'll see. See where you'll
Let's
be.
see.
In
See
the
you.
grocery store,
Bye.
maybe. All right, bye.